So I'm not gonna lie, things have been pretty rough recently. Not just the stuff that's going on like everywhere, but also it feels like, as it frequently is in my life, as everything goes to chaos outside of the world, everything goes to chaos in my own life too. We've had sick family members, we've had so many deaths in the family and friends of the family in the past couple of years that we have not really had a chance to process any of them at all. And then And I have always been one of those people that has big feelings. I feel everything very big, very hard, and very often that can overload my system. And recently I just find myself over and over and over again ending up in a freeze state because there's just too many things going wrong, both in my immediate life and in the world around me. And I'm also in a weird position where like social media is simultaneously like my income and also a huge element of my socialization. I do not leave home very often. I am not physically capable. I mean, I may look okay and animated and good, but after I finish filming this video and one after it, I am probably going to need to take a break for like 2 days and largely be horizontal because my body has just been pushed too far beyond its breaking point way too many times before, and I absolutely have to honor and respect its need for rest. And very frequently, something that I have been like struggling with is like, I make videos very often about Taylor Swift, about pop music, about things of that nature, and a lot of my friends are like, hey, you're like capable of so much more. Why don't you do so much more? And for a long while, I felt like, especially those situations that were like influencers taking advantage of their younger fans and stuff like that. Obviously, it wasn't an influencer who hurt me, but I suffered through similar things when I was a teenager. I know the profound impact that those sorts of situations can have on people. So I very often feel like this duty or obligation to comment on those things, to comment on all of the things that are happening, to comment on all of these things that are going on in the world, all of these things that are not normal, that have been very much normalized, and I do not have it in me. It is not in my nervous system to do that. And so I have really been focusing on media literacy and light entertainment, in the words of Phil Lester. Honestly, I don't know his exact words because I suck at remembering exact phrases, but I think he said something to the effect of, I believe in the power of light entertainment. And I think that is so, so very important right now. I think especially when so many bad things, so many terrible, horrible things are going on in the world, there is this pressure that you need to be doing something, you need to be seeing things, you need to be educating yourself, you need to be doing all of these things. But I think of equal importance is light entertainment, especially music, especially TV shows, especially things that give us any sort of sense of human compassion, human emotion, human feelings, empathy, all of those things that have been, that the wider world is often devoid of, right? I need to realize that I am only capable of making that kind of like hard-hitting, like very emotional, coming from a place of like deep wounding within me type content when I feel safe. And I have not felt safe for a long time. I don't think I'm ever going to feel safe again in my life. Like, just the way everything is going, that seems like a foolish sentiment. So unfortunately, like, that kind of stuff I just have to put aside. I just have to focus on light entertainment and media literacy through pop culture, because that's the other piece of what I'm trying to do here, right? We do not have media literacy because they do not want us to have media literacy. There are a lot of figures in charge who just want us to read the media, read the news uncritically, not think about it, not think if it makes sense about the other things that we know about the people involved and the circumstances involved and things like that. They don't want us to dig deeper, they don't want us to research, they don't want us to talk to each other about it. And that is becoming more and more prominent in more ways, because especially as somebody who is queer and disabled, like, I very much feel like my whole identity, my whole personhood is under attack. And I at least have a bit of privilege, if you catch my drift. But like I've been discussing for a long time, the media we consume has powerful impacts over us. I talk a lot about All Too Well 10-minute version because that was like the profound aha moment for me. That was the moment where all of those age gap relationships that I was in early on in my life were finally put in the actual correct light. Like, people in the media were discussing how much these relationships had hurt Taylor. People that were my age were coming out and talking about how the relationships that we were in when we were younger with much older people, how that profoundly shaped and hurt us in a lot of ways. And I think it's so important. I think we learn so much more from monkey see, monkey do. And, you know, I get it. A lot of people were like, oh, well, people who are going to make decisions based on what a pop star does, they're stupid. There are a lot of people that have that sentiment, but there are a lot of people that just do not appreciate that one of the strongest things that humans possess is an ability to learn from one another just by seeing what other people do, seeing the response that they get for doing it, and then deciding on their own how they're going to come forward. In my life, I saw a number of women who were being judged unfairly in the workplace because they were women and they were in male workplaces. So that made me make the decision that I was not going to come out of the closet at work, because the last thing that I wanted was yet another thing that they can hold against me, yet another reason why they can mock me, they can put me down, why they can treat me like I'm not wanted there. And it made me make profound decisions in my life that I don't think I would have made if there would have been great examples of other people like me who were able to succeed and who were thriving. But I really didn't have that. What we think is normal, what behavior we think is okay, how we think to treat each other, a lot of that is founded upon pop culture. I think about when I was young, and trigger warning because we're going to discuss weight for a couple minutes, I'll put a timestamp down below, but I grew up in the 90s and I was an early adult in the early 2000s during the like heroin chic phase where skinny was best. The skinnier you were, the better. The skinnier you were, the more people seemed to like you. And I saw time after time after time women like Britney Spears having entirely normal, healthy bodies and being fat shamed for it. And that made me, somebody who has struggled with their digestion all of their life, decide not to treat that digestion for like 38 years. I spent 38 years of my life not trying to treat my digestive problems because I saw my digestive problems as a strength. I didn't need to try and diet. I didn't need to try and lose weight. I just existed and I was skinny, but I also felt like crap all the time. I was cold all the time. When you're very skinny, your nerves are really close to the surface. You have a lot more pain, or at least personally, when I have less weight on me, I feel a lot more physical pain. I am a lot more comfortable when I am at a weight that a lot of people back in the Aughties would have perceived as overweight, even though medically speaking, I am still on the rather small scale of things. And like, it is insane to me that we are rapidly going back to this standard for women where if you have like any little bit, any little place where you can pinch an inch, you are gross and disgusting and overweight. And like, that had such a profound effect on so many people in my generation. And I cannot believe that we are already rapidly going back to that. Seeing how women like Britney Spears were treated for just having the nerve to exist in a normal female body had a profound impact on the decisions that I made about my health. And right now, especially in an era where so few people are getting media literacy, so few people know how to look at the stuff that they're reading or they're seeing on the television or they're seeing on TikTok or whatever it is, and step back, take an objective look. Does this make sense? Does this seem reasonable? Is this a story that has an actual named source, or is it just a source of so-and-so? Like, sure, there are absolutely scenarios where a nameless source is a valid and a good and a reliable source, but in terms of celebrity gossip, But I've also seen so many people on TikTok who see videos dissecting Taylor's work, and that makes them want to dissect Taylor's work. That makes them want to dissect other things that they're exposed to. That makes them want to learn more media literacy, learn how to connect things better. And look, I know it might just be my self-importance talking, but I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to me to break down Taylor's work, to explain the things that don't make, to explain all of these inconsistencies in the media narrative versus the narrative that Taylor has told us in her own lyrics time and time and time again. And not only do so many of us dissect Taylor's work and other pop celebrities' works and things like that, but so many of us see all of these other books and movies and things that are referenced in these people's work. Like, Taylor references a ton of books and movies and songs and TV shows, and all of these things you can tell really had a powerful impact on shaping her into the person that she is today. And I think it's so important to help as many people as possible get on that path, but also as many people as possible get on the path of just not blindly accepting and trusting the things that the media is selling us. Like, the media wants to have an article about Taylor Swift every week at least, if not every day, because Taylor Swift's name gets people clicking. I'm sure you yourself have clicked on an article that has made itself out to be some big deal about Taylor and Travis's relationship, and all they were doing was just a nameless source says they're fighting. A nameless source says they're getting married. A nameless source says she's pregnant. But meanwhile, we have so much of Taylor's own work and so many of the things that come from Taylor's own mouth, stressing how much she loves privacy, stressing how much the most important things are the things that she keeps closest to her vest, stressing the fact that the press and the publicity and the media frenzy has been one of the things that has contributed to her having a hard time having normal relationships with people. But also at a time when so many of us are discussing recession pop, recession folk, recession punk, and other similar genres of music that comes up in times when the overarching governing forces tend to be more conservative, but there's also simultaneously a push amongst a large number of the people for social progress. And I think Taylor is very much a gateway into that sort of music and a gateway into that sort of understanding as well. I did a very deep dive into the song New Romantics in one of my previous videos, and I think that is one of the most important and most influential songs that Taylor has ever written. And I think one of the biggest reasons why art and artists, especially women, especially more liberal facing ones, face so much media speculation and scrutiny and pressure and criticism is because of the fact those artists and those art forms are often very influential in shaping the values and the beliefs of the people, but also in giving people morale. And I simultaneously believe that it is important for me in a time when it is bad to help people have morale by giving people a little bit of escapism. Because we very often act like escapism is just all bad all the time. No, we can't have escapism. Escapism is just putting your head in the sand. But also, we need to understand that there is a definite point where being exposed to more information does not provide us with additional things that we need to survive. And really do try to remember, you personally do not need to bear witness to every negative, bad event that is happening. You do need to be aware of what's going on, and you do need to do the things that you are capable of doing. But also, airline safety rules apply here as well. You need to put on your mask first before you can go out and help other people. It does not do any good to pour from an empty cup. I have, unfortunately, in my 41 and a half years on this planet, seen way too many helper friends end up running out of fuel, not having the fuel necessary to help themselves anymore, and a lot of them are not with us anymore. I think especially over the past year and a half, there's been this pervasive thing on TikTok where it's like, you're not spending every second of your time witnessing these atrocities, and if you're not helping with every dollar that you have to spare, you know, you're not doing enough. But this is not a short-term thing that we're up against. And the most important thing to remember about long-term battles is that you cannot be at the forefront the whole time. You have to take some time away to care for your own needs, to tend to your own family, to do the things to keep yourself still here. Because nothing else matters if you're not here. I think there's absolutely an amount of time each day or each week or what have you that you should spend putting your head out of the sand, looking around, seeing what the big picture is. But then you need escapism. You need places where even if you don't physically feel safe in the real world, where you feel intellectually safe thinking in this realm or maybe creating in this realm. Like, I know a lot of people that create art based on Taylor's work, they get a lot of validation, they get a lot of comfort and healing out of it. And it's like I said earlier, where like I cannot do my best art coming from like the deepest, darkest places of my soul unless I feel physically safe. And I think Taylor is so important for so many people in terms of feeling safe. Like, it is so monumental what she did with Eras Tour and having so many people come together in a space that felt very safe. Aside from like a couple of small incidences, one involving Nikki Glaser, there really weren't any times when you were hearing about people like being anti-feminist, being anti-queer, or things of that nature at the Eras Tour. And Eras Tour hasn't even been done for that long, and that already feels like a world where I can't necessarily see it existing. Like, I can't see Taylor having those many people brought together, especially in some states, especially where the politicians in those states don't think very highly of her, especially with everything that is going on right now. But it's also very important to me as a fandom that we are preserving as much of that safety and as much of that comfort as we can. Art, artistry, hobbies, embracing one another, loving one another, all of these things are distractions that keep us away from putting our heads down and just working ourselves to death. And that is what a lot of people in the overarching working authority want us to do. They want to be able to keep capitalizing on all of our labor and paying us fractions of what we're worth, and then abandoning us the second we can't work to the same standard that we once were able to. Resistance needs morale, it needs reclamation, it needs community, and I think back to like some of the lowest points in my life and how things like My Little Pony and YouTubers like Dan and Phil and things like that were all very critical to me being able to stay sane through some of the worst parts of my life. And it is especially important for me to do explicitly queer readings of pop culture and art and media and things of that nature in a time when our very existence is increasingly being erased. They are literally removing transgender from the Stonewall Museum. Even though most of the people that were most prominently involved in that fight were trans people, especially trans women of color. They want us to forget about the figures that have motivated us, have given us the strength to carry on, have given us more morale. They want us to devalue the things that we actually need the most right now. I do plan to intersperse more content about myself, more shorter videos, because these long, like almost hour-long videos dissecting Taylor's work, they take a lot of time and effort, and I need to be more frequently generating content than that if I am to survive as, like I said, somebody who does this for money. And to be clear, I'm not making a lot of money out of this right now. I'm living off of my savings. Savings that have very much suffered from the increasing costs of everything and the decreasing amount of just incidental income that used to come my way that does not any longer do that. I think forming community around ourselves is one of the most important things that we need to be doing right now, both physical people in person and also people that share our views that are a little bit more distant. We need people that can see the true us, and sometimes we can't find that super close to home, or sometimes we need more than the people that we have super close to home. And to that end, I do have a good amount of content that is coming up. I have a video that I'm working on about Taylor Swift and the fashion influences she's taken from Marlene Dietrich. I have a video coming up that is about my first mammogram, because I think that's something that I don't know, I didn't really know what to expect. I had really built it up in my mind. I pushed it off for a year and a half, partially because I was scared, but also partially my periods were messed up. And I kind of want to reassure people a little bit, because it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm also going to be dissecting the new Gracie Abrams song Death Wish from the perspective that it is about Taylor, or some facet of Taylor or her life, or something along those lines. That is probably going to be the next hour-long video. I tried to make it shorter, and I tried to just yammer at the camera for a while, but I think that subject is just, it's got too much depth and too much nuance, and I think if I present it incorrectly, people are just gonna cry. So, but yes, if you've stayed to the end, thank you very much. It really does help me out as a content creator and just as a human being. It makes me feel like the things that I say are important to people, have value to people, things of that nature. If you would like to see more content about finding hope in bad times, I did a Hope Corps video the day after the election because I was in my feels and I needed to try and do something productive with them. If you want to hear more about Taylor Swift and kind of revolutionary themes in her work, I really highly recommend the aforementioned video on New Romantics. However, if this is your first time seeing me here, I actually recommend you watch my Swiftcraft video first, because I have a very unique way of seeing Taylor and pop stars in general and the art they create. And I think if you're unfamiliar with the lens that I'm viewing things from, nothing will make sense to you. But I think if you watch that video, or like just look through my Taylor Swift playlists, that you'll get a good idea of where I'm coming from. But anyway, thank you so very much for watching and have a lovely day.